Hello, everyone. What I'm going to be doing is splitting this webinar into two sections. It's an hourly webinar, so for the first 30 minutes, we'll be going through a presentation. I'll be walking everyone over here through the admissions process and talking about a couple of other things. And then post that, we'll keep the other half an hour for questions from your end. So if you've attended Zoom webinars before, you know what to do. You know to put it in the chat, in the Q&A, and I'll be able to answer them over here. We are doing something called the coffee chat with me, Karan, who is the recent admissions director at Masters Union. So this is going to be a weekly feature. So if you are interested in Masters Union in the admissions process or generally in events at campus, then I would encourage that you join us. We'll be conducting this either on the weekend or on the Friday of the week. So we encourage you to join us weekly. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So we'll be talking about the following things today, going through the following 5 things. And let's get started with the eligibility and criteria for applying to be a student in the upcoming cohort at Masters Union. So we look at 3 things in terms of your eligibility and criteria in terms of applying. Obviously, the first is your academics. We look at your undergraduate degree. So that's either a 3-year or a 4-year undergraduate degree. As you know, it is a postgraduate program in technology and business management. So we require people to have completed their undergraduate degree there. Another word I've written over there is background agnostic. So what that means is we accept applications from all disciplines and we don't really filter out anyone in that regard. So we've had people who've had people who've had a law background, for example, people who've been in marketing, people who've been engineers, people who've been studying BBA, economics honors. We've had even doctors applying to us in this academic cycle. So it's very interesting to see your applications from, again, a very diverse pool of educational background. So do keep this in mind that we are background agnostic in terms of the applications that come in. So going ahead with work experience, we look at about 2 to 4 years of work experience on an average. However, there's a caveat over here. We are open to freshers and older candidates. So don't think that if you don't have any work experience or if your work experience is lesser than the band that's mentioned here, you're not eligible or it's not favorable for you to apply. We encourage applications from freshers as well. In fact, about 20% of our class is usually freshers, and we see them faring pretty well when it comes to our placements. So, we encourage everyone to apply as well. And even older candidates, if you have more years of work experience, if you have something unique to add to the cohort, that's what we're looking for in terms of our students. So if you feel that you can bring that to our cohort and to the experience, then there should be nothing that stops you from applying. And finally, the test scores, right? So we've been getting a lot of questions about these over the last couple of weeks. We'll be clarifying this in this webinar today. So of course, we look at the CAT, GMAT, and GRE, and our own admissions test, which is the Masters Union Business Administration admissions test. So the MUBAT as an abbreviation. So yeah, these are the 4 exams that we look at, and I'm coming to this in detail. So I'll be talking about the MUBAT and the other exams in detail. Moving on, we're looking at the admissions process. So the admissions process, it's composed of several elements. It needs to be broken up into its own kind of subsection. It contains the following: the application bit, obviously your admissions application, the entrance exam, the thing that I just recently spoke about, interview process, and finally your decision, your acceptance, waitlist, or reject from Masters Union. So let's go ahead and talk about the application process first. There's, as any typical application process goes in a business school or any undergraduate school as well, you'll find the following sections in terms of collecting your personal details, you're collecting your academic and educational details for both. Maybe if you've done another master's as well, we'd encourage you to put all of your academic details over here. And finally, obviously collecting your work experience and professional details, and a couple of other sections that are just hygiene checks that I guess any application would have. The second is the resume and references section. These are different sections, but I'm clubbing them in one bracket. So in this section, what we see is you have some resume samples on the website to guide you in terms of guidelines. So please go to visit the website, and I'll be repeating this a lot during this session today about going to the website, checking it extensively, because that's a complete exhaustive source of all information that we have. So we have a sample resume that's over there. So we encourage you to go have a look at it. If you want to follow that to a T, please, that's up to you. And if you want to make slight modifications or go by your own kind of creative route, we give you that complete freedom. And in terms of references, we have a list of who you can consider as a reference there. So that's something that we check, which is either through a telephonic call or through a questionnaire about, say, the authenticity of your application and the details that you enter. So that's something that we do very seriously. So in terms of the references, you can use professors that you work with to do high-level research or projects with, mentors, immediate bosses, the upper management of whichever companies that you're working with, could be angel investors, etc. There's an exhaustive list that's given there. Moving on, I want to talk about the essays and the supplementary information. So, if you started application yesterday and onwards, you'll see that we've sort of switched the essay questions in our application form. And for people who've previously filled the essay questions, we'll be evaluating you on the old questions. You'll see that there's a lot of unique questions that we've put this time in our essay section. So I will be talking a bit about it right now. And about addressing gaps in your work, education, and more, we have a section in our application form where if you feel you want to address something in terms of a gap in education or talk something about your work experience that you couldn't talk in your application, if you feel that you need a section like that, we have that there as well. In terms of the essays, I'll just say two things. We're looking for, first of all, authenticity. Like, obviously we do our plagiarism checks and we see the style of tone and writing is consistent. So we'll be able to see your authentic voice through your essay. So just try to be as authentic and true to yourself. That's number one. And number two is we check your communication and critical thinking skills. I guess if you see the essay topics, you'll get to know what I'm talking about, but I would say that's a major thing that you should focus on. And everyone, I would give you this tip to take your essay very seriously, because it's a large chunk of what we consider as a decent portion in our evaluation chunk. So I would encourage everyone to take this essay section pretty seriously. Moving on, now talking about the entrance examination. And I hope to quell a lot of queries here. I know they might come later on the question and answer section, but we've been receiving this query, so I'll talk about it right now. So first, the GRE, GMAT, and CAT. These are exceptions to the MUBAT exam. So in all other cases, that could be number one, you've not taken any entrance exam at all. Number two, you've taken an entrance exam beside the GRE, GMAT, and CAT. That includes the NMAT. We do not look at the NMAT in our admissions evaluation. So you are required to take the MUBAT in that case. Only if you decide to take the GMAT, GRE, or CAT exam and submit your scores, your valid test scores. So for the GRE and GMAT, they're 5 years, and for the CAT, we want the most recent examination. So only if you submit your valid test scores will we consider that as exceptions to the MUBAT. And even if you do submit your GRE, GMAT scores and you feel personally that they're not high enough, or they don't represent you well enough, you can still sit for the MUBAT. This is an internal admissions test that we do to evaluate our candidates. So even if you feel, I'm just repeating that, even if you feel you've given the GRE, GMAT, CAT, and you feel that you've not done well enough, you can still sit for the MUBAT while submitting your GRE, GMAT, and CAT scores. In terms of a bracket of scores, I would say, I'm going to talk about it later, but something 700 plus, I think below 700 plus is, I think you should also be considering taking the MUBAT as well. Now talking about the MUBAT examination. So the MUBAT examination will be administered a week after our round one deadline ends. So our round one deadline, I'll be speaking about that, but it's the 23rd of January, and it'll be happening the weekend after. So either the 29th, 30th, 1st, so around that couple of days, 4-5 days over there, we'll be scheduling the MUBAT over then. It'll most probably be on the following weekend. The MUBAT is an online examination. You can take it from the comfort of your home and you'll have to log in. We'll be giving you some instructions on how to kind of go about it and do it. So for people who've completed their applications in round one, they'll be doing the MUBAT examination. Another important point I want to mention is everyone who completes their application also has to give the MUBAT examination. These are two chunks that we use for the first stage of evaluation that we do. It's a 90-minute exam. And as I mentioned, you have more than enough information on the website. There's even a sample paper with some sample questions that are given there. So you can have a look at the website and see what can kind of get a guideline of how the questions will be. But just to kind of give you a small kind of glimpse into it, there's the following sections. We have a data interpretation and reasoning section, just as any particular examination would to check These kind of skills, quantitative aptitude, to check your mathematical and analytical skills, verbal skills as well through comprehension. And finally, we have a case assessment section, which is more subjective, in which we get to see people's acumen, if you want to put it that way. So there are these following four sections. It's going to be a 90-minute exam that's going to be administered a week after our round one deadline. I just hope that makes things clear. It's an online exam that you can take from home. All right. Going ahead, as I mentioned, we use the application, your completed application, as well as your entrance examinations, whether it's GRE, GMAT, CAT, or the MUBAT, as a first step. That combined bundle, that's our first step in terms of evaluation. So the next step, say for students who qualify and go beyond that kind of stage, is the interview process. And the interview process, this is something that we'd like to do on campus. So we invite people from across India to come to our campus in Gurgaon. Otherwise, in very rare circumstances, do we see that we do them on Zoom, but we encourage them to be on campus. And in terms of the interviews, they'll be taken by our masters. Sometimes you'll also see some upper management, could be the founder, could be the admissions director as well. But usually you'll have interviews with our masters. And the interview styles, interview kind of experiences are different for each masters, but all of them have obviously a rubric to assess what masters union ideally seeks in their students. So they have a very good guideline of what they want to look at in terms of their interviews, and it's different to different masters. The experiences are different. The kind of questions that have been asked are also different. So that's the interview stage that's covered. And then finally, for people who've qualified both the first stage, which is the application and entrance examination section, and the interview stage, they get their decision. And in terms of decision, as I've already mentioned, we have an acceptance, a waitlist, or a reject. So you'll be informed of these accordingly. And so people who have been accepted, they're given their offers. If the MUBAT will be administered by, say, 29th January, our interviews will happen in the month of February. And by, I would say, the later weeks of February, you should be able to get your decision for round one applicants in terms of whether you've been accepted to Masters Union or not. So in terms of a timeline, I hope that you guys are noting this down or taking this into account. So we will do our round one deadline is 23rd. Post that, we do the MUBAT examination. Post that, for people who qualify, they'll have their interviews, and then will be their decision. So that's the entire admissions process that is there in detail. Talking about the deadlines, I mean, I just mentioned them. I'd just like to reiterate that our round one deadline is on midnight on 23rd January. I would encourage everyone to finish their application sooner if possible. It's not like you have to wait till the last moment to submit your application. And in fact, we'll be having a lot of exclusive events, if I might say, for people who've completed their application before this time. We'll be organizing it, say, a couple of weeks, starting from a couple of weeks now, depending on whichever city you're in. So you might see Masters Union around in terms of some events happening in your city. But these will be for people who've completed their applications and want to engage with us in a more kind of deeper manner. So yeah, for everyone else, round one, 23rd January, midnight. The interviews for round one, as I said, for people who are shortlisted will happen February 2022. So, you can expect that in terms of a timeline. And just to kind of be explicit, we have an application fee as well of 2,000 rupees that you'll have to pay at the time of submission. Now, just a quick snapshot of our class profile. That's something that I want to walk you guys through to understand what kind of students have been here in our first and second cohort. Just some statistics. The average age is about 24.5 years. As I've said, we've had students which are, 21, 35, 37, 39. So it's been a large range. But I would say, if you're looking at a good middle 80%, our average age for both the cohorts is about 24.5 years. Average work experience, about 3 years. As you can see, if someone graduates college at the age of 21, they probably come after 3 years of experience. So as I've said before, we also accept freshers. 20% of our class is about freshers. And, we also take applications from more experienced and older candidates as well. Again, it's all about what you can bring to the applications, all about what you can bring to the cohort as a personality. We really care about our cohort composition and the diversity that it comes from, whether it's the geographic diversity or the educational or professional diversity. So we really want to create a class of very special people that go on to accomplish very special things. So that's something that, I would say keep in consideration when filling out your application for Masters Union. And the final GMAT average over the last couple of years that we've seen is, as I said, 700 plus, so 705, 710. Our median is a bit higher, but our GMAT average is 705 for the first and second cohorts. So again, as I said before, if you've got below 700 in GMAT, or you can take that equivalent in a GRE below 325, or below like a 98, 99 percentile in CAT, I would encourage you to take the MUBAT examination as well. So kind of closing this off, I just want to talk about the fees and financing just to make this explicit. In terms of our fee, I'll tell you how it's structured and what the total amount is. So for students who have been accepted, so you've gone through your application stage, you've gone through your interview stage, and you finally got the offer, you have to pay an admissions fee in a certain stipulated amount of time as a token fee in terms of joining. So that's going to be 1.37 lakhs approximately. You have a union membership fee. This you pay at the time of joining, which allows you to be a lifelong member at Masters Union. If you want to read more about the perks and benefits, again, go to our website. It has a completely exhaustive list of what elements you'll get in this union membership fee. And of course, your tuition fee of 17.52 lakhs, which is the biggest chunk, I would say, in terms of your academic tuition at Masters Union. So if you add that up, the total we'll see is about 20 lakhs plus 18% GST, which should get you to a range of about 23.6 as the overall cost, the total cost that you have to pay. Right, so that's about the fees. Now we come to talking about scholarships and financial aid. So in terms of scholarships, again, please do go to the website to see much more in detail, but you can choose which scholarship you want to apply for in the middle of your admissions application. We have a list over there and a description. Some scholarships will require a supplemental essay that you'll have to upload directly in the application. And so, you'll get to know about the eligibility and the different types. Just to kind of give you a quick glance over it, I mean, like we give it on merit, scholarships for women, scholarships for tech leaders, scholarships for young leaders, for entrepreneurs. So we look at awarding different, as I said, looking at the cohort diversity and awarding people for achievements across different domains. So that's about scholarships. We also have educational loans with our partners. This is at the bottom of the admissions page. If you scroll and see there, we are partnered with HDFC Credila, Axis Bank, Bajaj Finserv, and we've seen a lot of students, especially coming with this much work experience and that kind of from prestigious institutes and that kind of pedigree. We see that financial independence for them starts before they join Masters Union itself, in terms of getting their finances sorted, taking a loan. And it's great faith that they took loans even before we had announced any placement news. So obviously they've been really, really well rewarded, and that kind of has taken care of itself. But it's great to see people taking charge of their financial independence in this particular manner. I guess I kind of went through it quick. I hope everyone got the information in a pretty succinct manner. Now it's time for question and answers. So if anyone has questions, I know the chat has been buzzing right now. There's some questions and some this. So I look at things individually. I'll look at some questions that have come in right now and start answering them. What would be the bracket for in terms of GRE score? Look at the GMAT 700 plus kind of metric and make that equivalent in your head. It needs to be competitive, Siddhant, for sure. So GMAT good score 700. What would be a good score for GRE? Again, I answer that question, and for CAT, answer that question as well. It's an online exam that can be taken at any time. No, it's an administered and proctored examination that would be taken at a specific time. It's not a take-home exam, if you wanted to ask that questions. What is a decent score in CAT? Again, this is not for me to tell you. This is for you to kind of judge yourself by seeing what kind of outcomes that we have, what kind of mission that we have, and what kind of class that we want to bring to Masters Union. So in terms of examination scores, I would honestly ask you to use your own judgment. And if you feel personally, and if you, for everyone who's asked about the GMAT, GRE, CAT, if you feel personally you've not done well enough, everyone is free to take the MUBAT examination. That is our personal metric of evaluation in terms of an admissions test. So that, feel free to take that. So moving on, Vivek's asked, if one has taken two examinations, can you submit a score of both? Yes, you can do that. Could I share a good percentile for that? I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. Are there any scholarships for applying in round one? Yes, Kanika. So Kanika, you can select the scholarships in in your application section, as I've mentioned before. And that's something that I would say that, be on the lookout for if you started your application. Is your PGP equivalent to PGDM? I would say it's technology and business management, right? So I would say it marrying the best of both worlds, and especially creating, in my opinion, students who graduate have become people at the intersection of technology and business. So it's way more than a conventional education, whether you want to call it PGTM, MBA, anything like that. I just think it's just a level above. Is this also for experienced people or freshers? If you have experience, feel free to apply. As I've said, we've had people with 11 years of experience, and even people with 19, 20, 25 years of experience apply to us before. Okay, we're getting a lot of questions. So if there's any similar questions, I will be skipping them. How the inclusion of technology has revolutionized the same. Is this a has or will? I mean, do I have to write about a past technology or a future? SE2 is confusing. I'll make of it what you will. If you want to write about it in the past, so then which technology had existed, or if in the future, if you're creative enough to think about that, please go ahead. How would I know if I have a good enough profile for applying? You use your own discretion and judgment. 3 years of experience at date of joining, right? Yeah, I mean, it's again a ballpark. It's not, something, as I said, we filter out people who don't have our required amount of work experience. What we're concerned about is making a really good cohort. So that's something that I would encourage you to think about more. If I got rejected in round one application, can you allow me to reapply in the second round? No, you reapply next year. You can't reapply in the same year. Anything above 90th percentile for CAT in science grad would suffice. I would encourage you to take the MUBAT if you think so. Please share light on references for professors. Yeah, what you've mentioned, professors you've done research with. School dean, I would say no, we'd want the dean of your professors, dean of your college, if that's the case. In terms of professors, again, not just someone who's taught you, but people you've worked with in terms of either have done research or probably have worked on some high level projects with. So that's something that we're looking for. Is having a references a must? Yes, please do submit that in your application form, because we will be doing telephonic and either a telephonic or a questionnaire check. What is the composition of MUBAT? Is it largely similar to other competitive examinations? I've given you the sections there. Again, Pranav, you can go to the website and you can see what is the cutoff of the MUBAT exam. That's not something that we disclose. We don't have sectional cutoffs in CAT. As I've said, for anyone asking examination questions, if you feel personally, and again, use your own discretion, if you feel that you don't have a good enough score, you all have the option to take the MUBAT. Those registering for MUBAT would not be able to use GMAT score. You can use the GMAT score. You can submit it. The placement report states only a percentage. Can you share total number of students placed? Everyone is placed. 100% is placed. The rest have raised VC funds. If you read, and you can read more about our startups there. Are there any guidelines to pass to our recommenders? For example, points to cover, word limit, etc. No. So it's not a letter of recommendation, Keshav. It's a reference check. So we would be checking again if the details you submitted in your application are authentic, and also be talking to your referral about the qualities that they think that you exhibit, perhaps your strengths and weaknesses. So if you could have a conversation with the person before you're letting them know, I think that would be ideal. Do have a conversation with someone before letting them know that you're putting their name in their reference sections in our application. What is the weightage on the profile, 10th, 12th exam scores, etc., etc. Okay, so Ishika, and perhaps if this question has come later, I'll answer it for everyone. Think of it as 33, 33, 33%. We look at 33% of our essay, 33% of our essays. 30 to 33% is, of course, your graduate, your grades, basically. So 10th, 12th, undergrad, postgrad, other projects you've done, academic related work. And finally, the 33% is your profile or your story, right? Like your work or your projects or what you've done or why. Like there has to be a certain linearity to it, right? So we're trying to find the connections across those dots. So hopefully that takes you in good stead. And it needs to be something that is demonstratable. It's not something that let me give you an example. You can't just say, hey, I'm a curious person, right? You need to prove that through numbers or anecdotes or something like that, that we can understand in terms of trying to understand what kind of application that we're getting. Okay, fund does not qualify for round one application. Is she applied? Can she apply to now round two? No, you can't apply to round two. You have to apply the next year. If a candidate is selected, how much percentage of scholarship will be awarded? That depends on the scholarship you apply for, as well as in your interview, depending on whatever scholarship that you chose, the conversations that you have in your interview, those will be checked across. So accordingly, you will be getting a percentage of scholarship awarded to you. how is academics at Masters Union is different from other premier schools considering curriculum mentions fintech. So obviously this is an admissions webinar and it's not really my place. If there's an academics webinar, of course, feel free to answer this question. But in my personal opinion, both the curriculum and the interventions that Masters Union has for its students, as I said, it's at the intersection of technology and business. So in terms of the academics, you have four core tracks that you're taking, whether it's marketing, branding, design, or management strategy, or computing, business and statistics, or finance and fintech, as you've written in your question over here. And then again, you have many like elective tracks to take from, whether it's PEVC or getting into software development or getting into investment banking, something like that. So there's a lot of opportunity in terms of tailoring your own educational experience. And I'm not even mentioning the other interventions they have, which is something like the venture initiation program and so many more things that have been listed out on the website. So it's a very rigorous and challenging and very exhilarating academic experience, to say at the least. And that's not something that I've seen replicated anywhere else, if I might say so. Perhaps to me, it seems like like only tech MBA that kind of exists in India. Can you please throw some light on MUBAV exhaustive list of topics for various sections? Okay, so one more thing. Also, Yash, I think you're worrying too much about the MUBAT examination. The MUBAT examination, so like unlike the GRE and CAT, what we don't want you to quit work 6 months before and start preparing for it and leave things about. So it's not an exam which is easy in any way. But at the same time, we don't want you to quit your job or to leave that, because we know that people who are applying will have a certain level of analytical, verbal, and data skill that we can see through this particular examination. So that's why we don't kind of reveal too much on it, is we want to see your experiences with it fresh. So for the MUBAT examinations, please, keep that in mind, that you don't need to quit your job and you don't need 6 months of preparation. It would be on the same lines that I mentioned in my presentation. Of course, you can go onto the website and see some sample questions for the same. Okay, so I hope that answers the objective part of your question. The first cohort of Masters Union has placements that has surpassed gyms. No, that's IIMs. Okay. Can you comment something on it? Awesome. Well done. How to get resume reviewed before applying so that one gets to know if you have better chances or not. Again, this would be at your own discretion. It's not a service that anyone in our admissions team would provide. However, I think, Amit, what you've triggered is a good point that I want to mention to everyone, which is about campus visits. So if you're visiting Delhi or Gurgaon in the near future, or if you live here, we'd encourage everyone to come for a campus visit. We have appointment slots that you can book. You must have seen the mails you would have been getting recently. In the footer section, you must have a section called Book a Campus Visit over there. So, please do come to campus. You have option to see what classes are like, and, for example, talk to our students currently in class, talk to our admissions counselors. So for everyone, if you're interested and if you can make out the time, I would highly encourage that you do come for a campus visit. There's more questions on placements, which I'm not going to take because, again, this is an admissions webinar, and that's something that we will look for. Okay, so I'm getting some questions about the class size and strength. So one thing, I want to mention very clearly is that our prime focus is on the quality of our batch and the kind of people that we take into our cohort. So, I would say that we are flexible for that. And we, at least, with our first year, you can see we have that kind of minimum viable product that gives you like an authentic experience for this many number of students. So for us, we, don't want to compromise on the authenticity of our experience for anyone. And having said that, we want only high quality students. So I have 5 years of work ex in HR. Would that impact your profile? No, I would say that, it'd be interesting to see your story, 5 years of work experience in HR, and why Masters Union fits in your story to kind of going forward. So that's something that I would encourage you to think about, on how Masters Union fits in the linearity of your story. And if it makes sense, then, perhaps it'll make sense to us as well. When does the program commence? It starts in May 2022. I hope that, yeah, there's a couple of questions on that. So strength, I've answered the question on that. Programs for 16 months, including in terms of, yeah, so program structure, it's 12 months of rigorous academics, which is followed by 4 months of industry immersion. And, that could take form of several things. Internships is included with that. Can people with work ex in Infrastructure and public transportation apply because it's a business program. Yes, you can apply. Again, we are background agnostic when it comes to your work experience as well as your academic experience. Please do think about how Masters Union makes sense for you as a next step. Either if you want to pivot into tech or if you want to get a career boost in the same industry, we need to understand how it will fit as the next piece in the puzzle of your like career trajectory or life trajectory. And if that makes sense to you, and then try to convince us that it makes sense to us in your application. I guess that's the most dumbed down way of me putting my application advice forward. Admission solely depends on MUBAT exam score only. No, you can submit the CAT, GMAT, and GRE. I have my own business who to give as a reference. Please, as I mentioned, there's a number of people you can use, your professors, you can use mentors, investors. Batch profile, I've just mentioned it. I hope you were watching in the presentation. The degree is similar lines to that of an executive MBA. No, an executive MBA is different. An executive MBA obviously would be approached by people with a lot more work experience and have a lot more people at that higher end of work experience. You can't really compare it to any other program, which is an executive MBA or a 2-year MBA or another PGDM. I know there's a lot of questions on that. It's really something quite new in terms of trying to think from the ground up as what kind of skills do we want as the outcome, rather than following a set like format or following a set kind of on a path that's already laid out in stone. If you look again, I would ask everyone to go through the website and look at both the academics, go through the course roster, and go through the interventions that are there. So all of these are happening at once across your 16-month experience. So that really doesn't, the cauldron and all these ingredients that are thrown in, can't really compare that to any other recipe or dish that's out there. Okay, more comments on IIMs. Yeah, I said well done to them. Well done to Masters Union. Duration of the course is 16 months. 100% of our batch was placed, except for the people who wanted to go the startup route and who raised VC funds. Even if we have taken CAT, is it possible that we don't submit our CAT score and apply through MUBAT? I would encourage that you submit your CAT score. It's not going to hold you back if you take the MUBAT examination as well. But you can submit this score, and we would encourage you to do if it's valid. That's important. We don't want invalid scores. I had started preparing for the old essay questions. I had completed 80% of my essay prep. Now the essay question has been changed. What should I do in this case? I should write your new essays, submit your answers for the new essays. Will there be a difference in application for MUBAT? No. If you've applied and you've completed your application, you will have to take the MUBAT to, that will be a bundle, as I said, that will move you to the first stage of evaluation. Is there any disadvantage for people with zero work ex just out of college? No. As I said, Isha, we have people who've had 20% of our class is freshers. So don't feel discouraged because you have no work experience. Is there some sort of shortlisting for interview? Yes. The application and MUBAT examination or other entrance examination scores are used to shortlist to the next stage. First batch had only a strength of 60 people. Are you open to a bigger batch or is it limited strength? We're open to a bigger batch, but we are, as I said, our main focus is on student experience, authenticity of the program, and high quality students, exceptional students, if I might say so. Is there any criteria concerned to whether we are from engineering, BCom background? No, as I said, we are background agnostic. Abhay, you feel free to apply regardless of your educational background. When can we expect a session on academics? Okay, if that's something that is a popular request, we will look to get it done soon, so that you guys can have an in-depth look into this kind of stuff. Then any gap year will be a disadvantage. No, but if you do have any gaps in work or education, please do mention it. We have a separate section for that in our application form. More placement questions will be answered in placement webinars. Anyone can come to campus. Yes, you have to book through the appointment link. So please do reach out to us on admissions at mastersunion.org, and our counselors can get in touch with you and provide you the link. When does the program commence? May. More about placements. Please watch Pratham's webinar, which was conducted last week. We have a recording of that on YouTube. So completely, about stories, strategies, and statistics about placements. You'll get a complete understanding over there. Any new companies being added for this placement season? I'm sure, given the news around placements that has happened, obviously, I think there will be a huge buzz. But again, that's a question for placements to answer. How is the campus and is it residential program? We do have two hostels which are right, very close by, about 5-7 minutes away. So you do have the option of staying in the hostel, and I would actually recommend it. I think given the rigorous nature of classes, the academic schedule, and the amount of group work and teamwork that you have to do across the years, I would, and even in terms of just hanging out with your friends, and I guess that's something that's really important. I know a lot of you are talking about placements and exam scores and stuff, but to be honest, an MBA or any kind of great business program, you go there for the people. So, you go there for the peer learning, you go there for the network that you make. So that's something that I would say you should take out of your experiences. Average package of placements, 29.12 lakhs. Anyone can come to campus. You have to book a link. You have to book it through the appointment link. Number of students in the last batch, 64. Working in family business counts as work. Yeah, please do submit your family business details as well. We have students who've had family business backgrounds. No disadvantage if you are a fresher. I am confused between marketing finance. Can I still choose Masters Union, or does it require me to have a clear view of where I want to be heading? I'm banking in. So, even though I said, okay, there has to be some linearity and it has to fit as a piece of puzzle, which it does. I mean, this is a place where we've seen a lot of career transitions. So I don't know what you're doing right now, or I probably need some more context to answer this question. But as a place to pivot, if someone is working as a lawyer, they're now working as in branding, for example, in marketing and branding. So that Masters Union is, or generally business school is used as a place if you want to pivot in terms of your career. If two scores are admitted, will MUPAT score Trump /GMAT/CAT? We take all of it in holistic evaluation. How can you show validity of entrepreneurship in work experience? I mean, how do you show the validity of your organization? A lot of questions on average package. When will MUPAT be conducted? The weekend after our first deadline. Questions on accreditation here. A couple of them. So, again, if you want to do something that's accredited, you feel free to completely do. We've seen that both the Indian public, in terms of the students as well as the recruiters, have given us more than enthusiastic feedback about our curriculum and what kind of students we can bring about. And the nature and structure and essential elements of the program couldn't have been realized without having these kind of boundaries of accreditation on us. So I think we're happy to stray away from the pack and have our own work speak for ourselves. Okay, a lot of people asking me and giving me their profiles in terms of I've done this, etc. Will this be used as work experience? Please use your own discretion, use your own judgment as to what can be counted and cannot be counted as valid work experience. Yeah, so for people who've taken the CAT and the scores are not here, obviously we'll be asking you your scores. You'll have to be submitting them once they do get declared. How many people will be getting one particular scholarship? Is like one scholarship for one candidate? No, it's not. So it's a diversity of scholarships that you can choose from and different levels of aid that are given depending on your profile. Yes, MUBAT is on the 29th or 30th, most probably, of Jan. Round 2 details and which round will have an advantage. So there's no advantage as such, but if you're inclined to apply, I would encourage that you apply in round 1. Obviously, we'll have a section of our batch filled. So there'll be, if you're looking at straight math, there'll be lesser number of places for you to get. So your ratios will obviously fall. So I would encourage, if everyone over here is interested, please do apply to us in round 1. Please share the link for the last webinar. It's on YouTube. Can you upload a demo essay on how exactly to write like you did for the resume? I don't think so. Why would you need a demo essay? Who are the panelists and who evaluate your profile? So Aditya, at the interview stage, in terms of panelists, we have our masters primarily, and sometimes they can be accompanied by either the founder or the admissions head or the CEO, for example. So yeah, that's something that you can expect in your interview. How long would the application take to finish? Asking when I understand I have to take my GMAT, have adequate time for submitting a good application. I mean, we've had students who've blown through the application and people who've taken 2-3 months as well. I would say just set aside a good week, at least 5-7 days, to give a really good authentic crack to your Masters Union application. Yes, industry experts, our masters, you can see the list on our website. They will be the people who will be interviewing you, along with, as I've said, in-house faculty, founders, etc., etc. Last year, NMAT was considered. Yeah, this year we're not considering NMAT anymore. If you submit it, we will not count it. You will have to sit for the MUBAT examination. There are some questions in terms of the score appearing or the Masters Union appearing as an option in the NMAT section. So when you take the NMAT examination, you can choose Masters Union as university there. That will be phased out in future academic cycles. But just as a PSA announcement here, yes, we're not taking the NMAT. We're just taking the GRE, GMAT, and CAT as examinations. There's no minimum CAT cutoff, but I would encourage you to use your own discretion. Again, as I've said, if you feel like you've not done well enough, you can take the MUBAT examination as well. When are the interviews conducted? If you are shortlisted for the interview round, Isha, then you will be having your interviews in Feb. Help me figure. Okay, that's a long question. Ishika, I would encourage you to just write to us personally and try to talk to the admissions counselors and see if they can help you figure out what your question is. Admissions are not on a rolling basis. We have two rounds. Round one, as I've said, the deadline is 23rd. 35 plus will be my profile. Give my yeah. If you're 35 plus, again, we've had students who've been 35 in our previous two cohorts. So don't feel that you're at a disadvantage if you're a bit older and have more work experience. What constitutes the curriculum of Masters Union? You can read that on the website. I have 55%. Gunan, you've been writing this quite a bit in graduation. Is it something that matters a lot? Would my profile be rejected straight away or have chance based on entrance scores? Please apply. I would say please apply if your story is, good enough to convince us that your 55% is, it's a very small part of a bigger picture, then that might be a different story. But again, we'll have to see that through the application rather than you just writing it on the chat. If rejected in round one, can you apply in round two? No, you have to apply the next year. Is there any word limit in the essay? 300 to 500 words. The LORs, they're not LORs, they are reference checks. So it will be either a questionnaire or a phone call, most probably a phone call. Questionnaires in specific cases only. Should we not submit NMAT scores at all? No, there's no option to. So you will have to take the MUBAT for that. Is there an advantage to giving the MUBAT? Why did you need to introduce this exam? We wanted to have a standardized examination for ourselves in terms of figuring out exactly what we needed in terms of understanding both analytical data and verbal comprehension skills. So we wanted to have our own metrics as compared to something else. I'm done with this. I think I have seen. Okay, there's another Q&A section which I'm going to take, but I'm pretty happy at myself that I've managed to complete most of the questions on the chat. How can an engineer build his application with respect to business field who's only been working on the technical side? So, okay, someone anonymous has asked this. I wish you'd asked with your name, but the thing with engineering students or business students, and for everyone who's here, I want to make this clear that doing something that's completely tangent from what you've studied before, and by giving like engineers will do this thing. It's not the business students who will do this. If you do a BTech, for example, you will then if you want to do an MBA, completely cast yourself away from the industry, from the academics, from whatever you've studied, and put yourself in a different world, which is business school. I don't see people who've done BCom or BBA or economics honors going and doing MTech or MSc degrees. So in terms of kind of having a divergent experience, what I, at least at Masters Union, what we believe is you need to have some previous context of where you're coming from. So for example, for an engineer who wants to learn business, as compared to going to another school, and it could be any other school, a business school which is purely focusing on business, we see that having this kind of intersection with technology allows you to have a soft launch or a soft kind of landing in terms of understanding business. So you'll have that kind of context to relate back to what you've studied in engineering or tech in general. And the same goes for people coming from a BBA, commerce, economics background, who people who've basically had experience with management. And this is academic. I'm talking about professional experience is a completely different ballgame. So academic experience wise as well, people who've from a kind of business background, management background, it's a soft landing into understanding the role, world of technology. And that's a huge demand that we see in terms of people trying to upskill themselves. As I say, it's the kind of employment that exists is more skill based rather than degree based. So if people are familiar with data science, if there is an investment banker that can also code web apps in Python, then why not? So that's something that we ask you to kind of put faith in yourself and in us, to take that next step forward, because for the future of the workplace, you really have to be someone who is at the intersection of business and technology, and obviously good with their communication skills as well. Again, I'm repeating, we're not out here to take people and put them into programming jobs. And we're not out here to take people and put them into like sales jobs or kind of back end business jobs. People will be at the intersection of business and technology, transforming business logic to engineering logic or tech logic, and same vice versa as well. So if you're interested in that, if you feel that your values, your ethos and stuff aligns with that stuff, then I would encourage you to definitely apply to masters. Please spend the right on references of freshers. I think, okay, I think these are questions that I've already answered, if I'm not wrong. Program commences May 2022. Vignesh, I know you've mentioned like your 10th, 12th and undergrad scores. We'll encourage you to apply or just call a counselor, get in touch with us and talk to them about this question. Admissions are not on a rolling basis. We've divided it on rounds. Yes, Amit, we would welcome you to come to campus. Highest package, it's mentioned in our previous webinar that was done on placements. What are the chances of freshers with non-technical background? If you manage, as I said, to convince us that Masters Union is the right step in the ladder or the arc of your professional career or your life, then we will obviously take you. Fee structure, Arshad, is something that I mentioned, but overall it's 20 lakhs plus 18% GST. Ridhan, you can complete your application and your CAT scores, because when they get declared, I know they're not declared right now. When they are declared, they are added. I mean, there's another way that we collect that information. So if you feel that you're ready to submit your application, feel free to complete it. For interviewing, shortlisting, all factors will be considered. One of these factors, MU batch scores, profile, essay. Yeah, so your application, which is your profile, personal, academic, work experience, essay, references, etc. That's one bundle. And the second is the MUBAT or entrance examination. That is then the first bundle of that is evaluated. For people who qualify that, then they move to the interview stage. That is the next step. Are there any scholarships available? Kevin, yes, please do go through our admissions page on the website. You'll find of this. Do you think Masters Union would be a good fit for a fresher? Yes. I mean, our freshers went on to become, associate consultants at Bain, BCG and stuff. Like in Bain for sure, I know. So we've had people becoming chief of staff also as well. So there have been amazing outcomes for freshers. So okay, let me take a regular example. Obviously, we look for very high quality students. That's something that is a disclaimer that I've kind of gone across. But our average salary for freshers for the placements that happened was about 23.2 lakhs. And if you look at that, you compare that to like DU, for example, if you're from a tier one college as well, you'll be getting 8, 10, 12 lakhs, 15 lakhs maybe if you're from a great college. But for the other students, we see that they starting at that kind of 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs. Their career trajectories obviously are a lot longer, and the relationship between salary and time. I mean, in terms of a career trajectory, if you want to plot that. If you look at say the DU, which is 3 years, so you do that, and then a Masters Union experience, which is 16 months. You're starting at an average fresher salary of 23 lakhs. So I guess in terms of starting off your career, you're at a much better point in that arc in terms of exponential growth rather than more linear growth that way. So yeah, I hope that answers my the questions regarding freshers, regarding examinations, regarding cutoffs, all of that stuff. Is there any chance to increase batch size this year? Nilutpal, yes, as I said, we can think of looking at increasing our batch size, but we mentioned that our focus is on creating a cohort with very, very special people from all across India with all different kinds of backgrounds and profiles. And that would add a lot to the student experience, as well as people who are motivated enough to push the level even beyond what we've achieved already. I'm currently in my final year and my graduation will get completed by 2022. Program commences in May 2022. If your graduation is if you're finishing off college by June 2022, we'll let you go for your convocation ceremony or graduation ceremony, of course, but I assume you would have done examinations and had some time before that. So if you can start, we would encourage you to apply. If you can start by May 2022, we would encourage you to apply. Applications will be evaluated by softwares or people. I would ask you to think about that, Yukesh. Thank you a lot for that info. I'll be applying for 2023. Okay, thank you, Manish. Can we submit a GRE score after the deadlines? Take 10, 15 official days for the score to come. Prayag, please write to us in terms of perhaps if you get the raw score before, or if we can get the ETS directly sending your scores as well to us. So Parag, sorry, apologies for that, but yeah, please do write to us, and then we will get you to connect to one of our admissions counselors for the submission of how do you want to do the GRE scores. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. I think it's almost 12:30. We will be doing this, as I said, pretty regularly. So if you're interested, or if you have friends who are interested, or if anyone else is interested about the admissions process, please tell them to go to the website. Don't tell them to come to this session because they should know everything already through there. But if there exists any particular doubt or query, then they can come back here and answer this. So, and come back here and attend this session. So, thanks, everyone. Hope your doubts were cleared. Everything is pretty clear in terms of how you want to go ahead with things. And we look forward to a lot of your completed applications very, very soon. And yes, just reminding you, round one is 23rd Jan. And yes, we're excited to see everyone who applies. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining.